Horse.
Okay, peace. So as we're continuing, the cellular papyrus clearly says that he sees control over the entire country and its attributes. Let me see this again. Okay, that's the cellular papyrus, and the king's name was Apophis. Now we're going to go to the papyrus of Manetho, who has record of the Hyksos dynasty. Okay, and I'm going to read it here. Rulers of foreign lands. That is the meaning of the name Hyksos. Okay, Manetho testifies, we had a king, Tahutimos. In his reign it happened. I do not know why the gods were displeased with us. Unexpectedly, from the regions of the east, men came of an unknown race. Confident of victory, they marched against our land by force. They marched against our land by force. They took it easily. They took our land easily. I'll put it right on here as I'm reading it, so you can see what I'm reading. They took it easily without a single battle. Having overpowered our rulers, they burnt our cities without compassion and destroyed the temples of the gods. All the natives were treated with great cruelty, for they slew some and carried the wives off and the children of others. Here we have the records of Manetho, clearly written by a Cometian, that the land was taken with ease. They overpowered the land. We didn't even fight back. The ruler, they burnt the cities. They took our wives without compassion, destroyed the temples of the gods. So here we have the cellular papyrus acknowledging that a native tribe came in, took over, brought in the rulership of Set. And here we have the records of Manetho, thousands of years later, written by a Cometian, saying that they took our land with ease. This is the most embarrassing story I can think of. So now, they finally appointed themselves kings, and they overpowered our land. Now, we're going to go back to what this gentleman sent me, and I'm going to put it back on the screen right here. And he said, in an event that demeaned the Pharaoh or Egypt would never be recorded. Okay? He says the reason why the Hebrew Israelites cannot be found in Egypt, their story, is because surviving Egyptian inscriptions were for the most part propagandistic records carved from stone, extolling the accomplishments of the god-king pharaohs. In an event that demeaned the Pharaoh or Egypt would never, let's look at the word never here, never be recorded. Take that. Would never be recorded. I just gave you I have many other papyruses discussing the feats of Kemet. You sent me a letter saying it would never be recorded. Before we even continue to get onto the topic, I need another letter stating that statement was a lie. That's a blatant, outright lie, because I just read two papyruses from two different kingdoms of Kemet, talking about how the enemies came in, wiped out our pharaohs, wiped out our gods, took our lands with ease. We couldn't even fight back. That seems to demean the gods and the pharaohs, and it was recorded. So that's a straight up lie. The next thing we're going to get to is we're going to get to the Brooklyn Papyrus, because the gentleman said the Brooklyn Papyrus has 95 slaves recorded that are Hebrews. And I'm going to show you what he sent me. This papyrus dates to the reign of Sobek III, the predecessor of Nefer-Hotep. This papyrus includes a decree by the pharaoh for the transfer of slaves. Of 95 names mentioned in the letter, 50% are Hebrew in origin. What is more, it lists the names of these slaves, the original Hebrew language. So he's telling me that there's a papyrus that has 95 slaves and lists the Hebrews, 50% of them. Okay? Now, That's their evidence. This papyrus dates back to the reign of Sobek-Hotep. This papyrus includes a decree by the pharaoh for the transfer of slaves. Great. The transfer of slaves. Does that mean these slaves were alive? Were these living slaves or were these dead slaves? Obviously they were living slaves. Okay. Now here's where he makes a mistake. He said that Zipporah is on the list. Zipporah from the book of Exodus is on the list of these slaves being transferred. Zipporah. Okay? Now, here's what I don't understand. Let me see this. Here is the book of Genesis 47:11. We're going to try to get dates here so we can understand how was Zipporah on this list and which pharaoh was the actual pharaoh of that time. Genesis 47:11. Joseph placed his father and his brethren and gave them possession in the land of Egypt, in the best part of the land of Ramesses. So when Joseph first came to Egypt, 400 and something years before Moses came, Ramesses had already been a pharaoh, and Ramesses had already established a land, and here's Joseph now giving the Israelites the land of Ramesses. Okay? That is what the Bible, the scripture, says. Is that correct? So we're in Exodus 12:40. It says, the sojourning of the children of Israel who dwelt in Egypt was 430 years. And it came to pass at the end of the 400 years, even the same self day, that the host of the Lord went out from Egypt. So Moses came and delivered the Israelites 435 years after this event. And the Pharaoh, either at the time or beforehand, was Ramesses. Okay. Let's understand this now. Here's Ramesses, everybody. This is Ramesses. Ramesses was from 1279 to 1213. Okay, this is Ramesses the Great. The oldest Ramesses is only 40-something years before that. Okay? Now, if you subtract 435 from 1213, you get 800 BC, which would make Moses exist in the time of Solomon. But up here, this gentleman says that the Pharaoh that was collecting the list was Sobek-Hotep III, who existed in 1745 BC. That's 500 years before Ramesses. How are the Israelites? The Israelites came in and are given the land of Ramesses. Then 435 years later, Moses comes and frees them. Now, we're going to use the biblical date to date the rest of this. I'm going to take another break right here. We're going to go into part 3, and the rest of that will cover the actual dates we can understand. Was Moses alive in 800 BC? Peace.
Hold on, let me get my charger for you first.
Is it right? Okay, good. Peace. Part 3 here. I'm going to go into several parts of this. Let's get into the mathematics of what's going on here. So the gentleman said that Sobek-Hotep.
It started from, it's on 9 now.
No.
Okay, delete that.